Under the cold, flickering lights of the courthouse hallway, Anna stood frozen, holding her baby close. Her arms ached, but she clung tighter, as if her grip alone could keep them both from unraveling. Just feet away, her ex-husband leaned against the wall in a crisp gray suit, his voice calm but sharp as a knife. "You won't last a week out there, with her. Don't come crawling back when the world crushes you, Anna." She didn't answer. She didn't look at him. She just turned away, her chin lifted, even as her breath shook in her chest. He didn't follow. He didn't need to. His voice chased her down the hall and clung to her like smoke. Outside, the rain came hard and cold, slapping against her skin as she stepped beneath a rusted awning. Her sneakers were soaked through, her jeans heavy with water. The baby whimpered softly, her cries nearly lost to the wind. No car, no home, no one to call. Her phone was dead, but it didn't matter. There wasn't a single name she would have dialed. 5 years. 5 long years of being told how to dress, how to speak, how to shrink herself small enough to survive. He had never raised a hand, but his words had bruised her in ways no one could see. Now, all that remained was a silence thick with grief and a baby girl pressed against her chest. With just $58 left in her wallet, Anna flagged down a cab. "Anywhere cheap and safe," she whispered. 20 minutes later, the driver pulled into the cracked parking lot of a run-down roadside motel, the Red Elm Inn. A flickering neon sign buzzed above the office. Room 6A was all she could afford. 3 nights. Inside, the air smelled faintly of mildew and old cigarettes. The walls were peeling. The heater groaned. The thin blanket on the bed barely covered the worn sheets beneath it. But the door locked, and that was enough. Anna placed her baby gently on the bed, then sat beside her. Her arms were numb, her feet cold, her mind refusing to think about tomorrow. Tonight, they were safe. And for now, that was everything. The door creaked shut behind her, and for a moment, Anna just stood there, still, silent, like she was waiting to wake up from a life she'd never meant to live. The room was dim, lit only by a yellow lamp in the corner that buzzed faintly. The carpet was threadbare and stained, the curtains stiff with dust. One chair sat crooked by a wobbly table, and the bed looked tired, as if it had held too many stories that ended in sorrow. But the lock clicked, and that meant safety. Anna set her baby down gently in the center of the bed, surrounding her with pillows to keep her from rolling. She changed her diaper with practiced hands, then wrapped her in the one soft blanket they owned. The baby blinked up at her with wide, trusting eyes, her tiny fists curling in the air. It was only then, in the stillness, that Anna allowed herself to sit. She collapsed into the chair like all the weight she'd been carrying had finally caught up with her. Her arms hung limp, her back throbbed. Her heart pounded against the quiet like it still didn't know they were safe. Safe. She whispered the word aloud, just to see if it would feel true. Outside, rain topped against the window, steady and cold. Somewhere in another room, a TV played too loud. Someone laughed. Someone cursed. She closed her eyes and leaned her head against the wall. Her baby let out a soft sigh in her sleep. For a long moment, Anna just listened. The quiet was unfamiliar. It was almost frightening how still the world had become. Then, a soft knock. It came from the other side of the wall. Not sharp, not loud, just a gentle, measured knock. Anna blinked, sat up a little. Her heart skipped. She stared at the wall. Nothing more followed, just silence. Maybe it was the pipes. Maybe it was nothing. She shook her head and gently laid her cheek back against the pillow. But still that knock echoed in the back of her mind, soft and strange. And somehow it didn't feel like a threat. It felt like a whisper.
The rain hadn't stopped. It whispered against the window like it had something to say. Anna didn't sleep much that night. Every time her baby stirred, she jolted awake, not from fear, but from the habit of always being on alert. Even in this room, with its creaking heater and flickering lamp, she couldn't let her guard down completely. It was past midnight when she heard it again. A knock. Soft. Deliberate. 2 gentle taps on the same wall her head rested against. Anna sat up, her breath catching in her throat. She looked at the wall, her fingers brushing the chipped paint. She waited, heart thudding, but nothing else came. She stared for a long time. Then, almost without thinking, she lifted her hand and knocked back, once, quietly. A few seconds passed, nothing happened, no reply. Maybe it had been a fluke, a sound in the walls. But something in her chest felt lighter, like a string had been pulled gently, connecting her to someone she couldn't see. By morning, the rain had stopped, and light filtered through the thin curtains in faded streaks of gold and gray. Her baby was still asleep, curled up like a little question mark under the blanket. Anna stepped outside to stretch and grab a drink from the vending machine. The air was crisp and damp. A few doors down, room 6B sat quiet, its curtain drawn. She started to head back when she saw something on the ground near her door. Folded paper, tucked gently between the doormat and the threshold. She picked it up, heart stuttering in her chest. The handwriting was neat, careful. If you ever need anything, I'm in 6B. No name, no signature, just that. Anna stood there a long moment, note trembling in her hand, the morning wind tugging at the edge of her jacket. She didn't know who they were or why they cared, but for the first time in a very long time, she didn't feel completely alone.
By the third day, the quiet turned into a kind of rhythm. Anna was still scared of the future, of money running out, of the aching loneliness that crept in at night, but there was something about the silence of room 6A that made it feel like she could breathe again, at least a little. But then, the baby started crying. It wasn't the usual hungry cry. This one was sharp, restless, rising in waves like panic. Anna scooped her up, pressing her close, whispering gently, but her little body felt too warm. Her skin was flushed, her eyes glassy, her limbs twitching in discomfort. Fever. Anna's chest tightened. She touched her baby's forehead, then her own. The difference chilled her. She fumbled through the diaper bag. No medicine, no thermometer, no extra formula. She hadn't planned this far ahead. She hadn't planned at all. Her baby cried louder. Anna paced the room, bouncing her gently, heart racing. What could she do? She had no car, no one to call, no clinic nearby that didn't need ID or insurance. The baby's cries cracked something inside her. She turned to the wall, the one shared with room 6B, and stood there, frozen. Then she knocked. 3 desperate, uneven knocks. Then again. She pressed her forehead to the wall, tears welling in her eyes. "Please," she whispered, not knowing if anyone could hear. "Please help me." Seconds passed. Nothing. She backed away, ashamed of the hope she'd let creep in. And then, a sound outside. Anna opened the door. On the ground,
sat a small brown paper bag, folded carefully at the top. Inside, 2 small bottles of baby formula, a tiny box of fever medicine, and a note. "It's okay. You're not alone." Anna stared at it, hands shaking. Tears slipped down her cheeks, quiet, grateful, overwhelmed. She looked toward room 6B, its door still closed, curtain drawn. She didn't know who they were, but in that moment, they felt like the only person in the world who saw her. The fever had broken by morning. Anna sat on the cracked bench in the courtyard, the motel's patchy lawn stretching out in front of her like a tired sigh. Her baby was asleep in her arms, breathing soft and steady, a faint flush still on her cheeks, but better. Safe. The sunlight was thin, filtered through clouds that looked like they hadn't moved in days. She hadn't planned to stay outside long, but she needed air, needed to stop listening for cries, for knocks, for memories that haunted closed doors. She was so lost in thought, she almost didn't notice the man sitting quietly a few feet away. He wasn't looking at her, just staring out across the lot, a to-go coffee cup in his hand, a worn novel balanced on his knee. Older than her, maybe mid-30s. Crisp clothes, but not flashy. A watch too nice for this kind of place. His hair was neatly combed, but his eyes looked tired in a way Anna recognized. He glanced over when her baby stirred. Their eyes met. A pause. Not awkward, just still. Then he nodded once, almost like a quiet hello. Anna offered a faint smile, one she wasn't sure reached her eyes. He didn't ask questions, didn't offer small talk. Instead, he stood and walked toward her, stopping just close enough to be kind, not intrusive. He looked at the baby, then at Anna. "She doing better?" Anna blinked, startled. "You're—" He gave a small smile. "Room 6B." Her breath caught. She didn't know what she expected. Older, maybe, or colder, but this man looked nothing like the image in her head. "Thank you," she said softly, "for the formula and the medicine." He just shook his head. "Didn't do much." "You did enough." There was a moment of quiet. The wind picked up slightly, rustling the leaves of a tired potted plant nearby. "It's Eli," he said. She held her baby a little closer. "Anna." He nodded again, then turned to go, leaving her with that same quiet presence he brought with him. She watched him walk back toward his room, the door closing behind him without a sound. She still didn't know who he was, or why he cared. But for the first time in weeks, Anna didn't feel like a burden. She just felt seen. The sky had turned pale and tired, the kind of winter afternoon that made everything feel slower. Anna stepped outside with the baby bundled against her chest, one tiny hand poking out of the blanket, fingers curled in sleep. The air was cold, but the breeze was kind, and after another restless night, she just needed to walk, if only around the cracked sidewalk of the parking lot. Eli was standing by the vending machine, reading something on his phone, his coffee cup steaming in the chill. He looked up just as Anna passed. A small flash of pink fell to the ground, a baby mitten, soft and faded, landing near his feet. Eli moved without saying anything. He bent down, picked it up, and stepped toward her, careful not to startle. "You dropped something," he said, holding it out gently. Anna turned, startled, and then saw it in his hand. "Oh," she said, a little breathless. "Thank you." He didn't speak right away, just looked down at the baby, still asleep, and then back at Anna with that quiet gaze of his. "You take good care of her," he said, almost to himself.
Anna blinked, then gave a soft smile, the kind that carried more weight than it showed. "I try." From behind one of the upstairs curtains, the edge of a figure moved. Mrs. Dorsey, long-time tenant of room 8C, stood peeking through the blinds, lips pursed around her third cup of tea. She was the type who noticed everything, but said nothing, at least not out loud. Anna didn't see her, but Eli did. He gave the smallest nod toward the window, almost like a shrug, then turned back to Anna. "Cold today," he said, stepping back. Anna pulled the blanket tighter around her baby. "Yeah." He hesitated, as if he wanted to say more, then just nodded and walked back toward his door, coffee still in hand. Mrs. Dorsey's curtain shifted closed, and Anna stood there, mitten in hand, feeling something warm slip quietly into her chest. Not hope exactly, but something close.
That evening, after the baby had fallen asleep, Anna sat on the edge of the motel bed, staring at a scrap of lined paper she'd torn from the back of a takeout menu. She didn't know what to write, not exactly, but she knew she couldn't stay silent. "Thank you for everything. You didn't have to help, but you did. That meant something. Anna." She folded the note and, just before sunrise, slipped it beneath the door of room 6B. By the time she stepped outside the next morning, a folded reply had been tucked beneath her own door. Caleb would have been her age. He had those same tiny mittens. "I guess I didn't want them to end up in the dirt again. E." Anna read it twice. She sat down slowly on the bed, her fingers brushing over the words. Caleb. His name sat in her chest like a stone and a soft light at once. She wrote back that night. No questions, just, "I'm sorry. I know how heavy silence can be." By the end of the week, there was a rhythm. Short notes, folded carefully, always left quietly, on doors, under coffee cups, tucked between vending machines and flower pots. Some notes were simple. "She smiled for the first time today. That smile probably saved your whole day." Others said more than either of them would ever say out loud. "He used to hum to himself when he played with blocks. The room is too quiet now." "He? You were a father?" "Still am, in some way." Anna told him about the courthouse, about the fear that never fully left, even behind locked motel doors. Eli never offered pity, just a sentence or two that always felt like a hand steadying her back. Some people survive. Others quietly save themselves. You seem like the second kind. Each note became a thread. Fragile, yes, but real. In the silence of those cold motel walls, two strangers began to build something, word by word. Pain met pain, kindness met caution, and neither of them felt quite so alone anymore.
The snow came fast that night, thick and heavy, blanketing the motel in silence. The power blinked once, then again, and then it was gone. Anna stood still in the dark room, holding her baby close, listening to the sudden hum of nothing. The heater died, the fridge clicked off, even the soft buzz of the hallway light disappeared. All that was left was the wind pressing against the windows. She reached for the drawer by the bed and pulled out a half-used candle Mrs. Dorsey had once given her, just in case. She lit it slowly, the tiny flame flickering to life and casting soft golden shapes across the peeling wallpaper. The baby stirred but didn't wake. Anna carried the candle to the wall they shared with room 6B and placed it gently on the floor beside it, its light dancing over the scuffed baseboard like a quiet signal in the dark. A few minutes passed. Then came the familiar sound, a soft knock, low and slow. Anna smiled. A moment later, just under the crack of her door, a warm glow stretched into her room. Eli had placed a candle outside his door, too. Its light spilled inward, flickering in rhythm with hers. No words, no notes. Just two small flames on either side of a paper-thin wall, pushing back the dark. For that night, it was enough.
It started with a cough, small, dry, harmless. But by midnight, the baby's breathing had turned shallow, her cheeks flushed with heat, her body limp in Anna's arms. Anna tried everything: cool cloths, whispered lullabies, prayers spoken through trembling lips. Nothing worked. Panic rose in her chest like fire. She pounded on the wall with the flat of her hand, once, twice, a third time, harder. The door to room 6B opened so fast it slammed into the outer wall. Eli didn't ask questions. He saw Anna's face, the baby in her arms, and his eyes sharpened. "Come with me," he said, voice calm but urgent. They didn't go to a clinic or the small-town ER down the street. Instead, he drove them through the snow-slick roads in a black SUV she'd never seen before, until they pulled into a quiet entrance tucked behind a private medical center. No lines, no waiting room. Doctors were already there, like they had been called ahead. Anna stood frozen, clutching her coat, watching her baby being taken gently from her arms. Eli was beside her, steady and silent. "How did you—" she started, her voice barely a whisper. He looked at her then, really looked at her, and said only, "I wasn't always in that motel." No explanation, no pride, just quiet truth. And that was when Anna began to realize he wasn't just kind. He was someone who could change everything.
The baby was resting now, fever broke in, cheeks pink again under the soft hospital light. Anna sat beside the crib, her eyes red from relief and exhaustion. Eli stood near the window, his hands in his coat pockets, staring out at the snow still falling in slow, steady sheets. Neither of them spoke for a while. There was nothing urgent left to say. Then, softly, Eli broke the silence. "He was only 4, he said, his voice barely more than breath. "Caleb, my nephew." Anna turned. "My brother was a single dad, young, messy, but he loved that kid more than anything. They were everything to each other." Eli paused, as if waiting for the words to hurt a little less. "One morning, he didn't wake up. A stroke, out of nowhere. Caleb was the one who found him." Anna's heart ached. "What happened to him, Caleb?" Eli looked down. "He lasted a few more months in the system. Then he got sick, pneumonia. I was too late." The silence between them was different now, not empty, but full, heavy with loss, honest. He continued, "I tried everything to make sense of it after. Gave up work, my name. I checked into that motel just to disappear for a while." Anna watched him, seeing not just the quiet man from the other side of the wall, but someone cracked open by grief, just like her. She stood, walked over, and sat beside him. "You didn't disappear," she said gently. "You were exactly where someone needed you to be." He turned to her slowly, his eyes meeting hers. For the first time, neither of them looked away. And in that quiet hospital room, lit only by monitors and snowfall,
Two people who had nearly given up on being seen finally were. The drive was quiet, not the kind filled with silence, but the kind that feels soft, comfortable. The snow had stopped, leaving behind a world wrapped in white and stillness. Eli turned down an old road lined with tall pines. At the end of it stood a house, simple but beautiful, with wide windows and a wooden porch that looked out over a frozen lake. Anna stepped out slowly, holding her baby close, her breath caught in her throat. "It was my brother's dream," Eli said, standing beside her. "He used to say someday he'd raise Caleb here, let him swim in that lake, teach him how to fish, build tree houses, fall asleep to crickets instead of sirens." Anna looked at the house again. It didn't feel empty. It felt like someone had loved it once, deeply. "I haven't let anyone stay here since, until now." She turned to him, confused. "I want you to have it. Not forever, just until you can breathe again, until it feels like the world isn't pressing in on you." Anna's eyes welled. No one had ever offered her anything like this, not without a price, not without strings. "Why?" she whispered. Eli shrugged softly. "Because you knocked on the wall." The wind moved across the lake like a hush, and for the first time in a long while, Anna felt something break open inside her. Not fear, not sadness, hope. The days passed gently at the lake house. Mornings were slow. Anna would sip coffee on the porch, her baby bundled beside her, watching the mist rise off the water. There was no rush anymore, no fear lurking behind each corner. Just quiet. Sometimes Eli would stop by, never all at once. He'd fix a leaky faucet, drop off groceries, bring a bag of tiny knitted socks for the baby he claimed were left over, but clearly weren't. They talked in fragments, about nothing, about everything. And between the laughter and silence, something unspoken began to grow. A steady kind of love. Not loud, not dramatic, but the kind that waits by the door, that shows up with soup and warm hands and eyes that never judge. One night, during a soft snowfall, Anna lit a candle and placed it by the window. A quiet thank you, a quiet invitation. Across the lake, a small light flickered to life in Eli's cabin. 2 candles, still burning, still answering. In that moment, Anna knew she wasn't running anymore. She wasn't surviving. She was home. Sometimes healing doesn't come in grand gestures or loud declarations. Sometimes it comes in the soft knock on a wall, in a candle placed by a window, in the quiet presence of someone who doesn't try to fix you, but stays anyway. Anna didn't set out to fall in love again, and Eli wasn't looking to be found. But somewhere between broken hearts and handwritten notes, they discovered something neither of them expected, a second chance. Not just at love, but at peace. And maybe that's the kind of happy ending that matters most.